It's the middle of October, and we got so scared from our first two scary episodes that we thought we'd take a break with something fun.
Yeah, and we thought this kid's movie would be just like normal, where there aren't any real monsters, but we found out the monsters were real!
Yeah, we're talking about Scooby Doo on Zombie Island.
How Star Wars is it?
Well, hi there, Mike.
Hi, Josiah!
Hello, and welcome to our dear listeners to How Star Wars Is It?
That's right, it's the only podcast
At
where
all.
two idiots rate and review things, and not on how good they are, but how Star Wars they are.
That's right. And
I was
folks,
explaining the premise actually today to a friend of mine who I've never talked to about it, and I was like, do we explain it well enough at the top of our shows? So imagine, Citizen Kane, great movie, but I'm not sure if it's a great Star Wars movie. Of course, it's not intending to be one, but that's beside the point.
But the artist is dead, and we don't care about their intentions. We care about how Star Wars things are.
Right, and the critical lens we are applying to it, you can criticize literature through like a queer lens or through a technological lens or whatever, and we're using the Star Wars lens.
Right, the only lens that really matters. Mm-hmm. Mike, saying that you talked to a friend recently about the show. So, and our listeners know that I've been traveling a lot on these like contracts out of Chicago. And this summer I was in Alaska. And now
And then you were here for like 1 minute.
I was in Chicago for a minute, and I'm in Minnesota doing another contract. So Mike and I are back to recording remotely. And I'm just
doing our separate monologues, and hopefully they line up.
They'll line up. And but something I found that is not fun is every time because I'm meeting a lot of new people constantly this year, is people finding out I have a podcast, and then.
So what do you do?
And sometimes I'll mention it not because I'm like, ooh, I have a podcast, but they're like, oh yeah, what do you like? They're like, oh, you want to come do this thing? And I'm like, I gotta edit my podcast, or I gotta go record.
3 hours worth of podcasting to do.
And then they're like, oh, you have a podcast? And then I have to explain why it's not that big of a deal sometimes, because some people are like, oh, you have a podcast? How? And I'm like, it's so easy to have a podcast, calm down. But then most of the time I have to be like, I promise it's just fun, it's silly, like you don't have to listen to it, whatever. But then most people get it when I explain like the concept. They're like, oh, that sounds funny or whatever, or they just like laugh. But then the great joke that happens though, great joke is that these people then, when I see them again, just in passing in conversation, will, anytime anything comes up, they'll be like, well, but how Star Wars is that? And I'm like,
I got that a fair amount during the musical that I was in, because I mentioned it once or twice during that run, and people, we'd talk about whatever movie, and people would be like, but Mike, how Star Wars is it?
I know, and my girlfriend does it to me too, and she gets a pass because she's cute, but everyone else needs to cut it out.
Yeah, it is like at the level of, hey, you should do comedy. Like when somebody does comedy and then they say something funny.
Right. It's bare minimum. Like, listen to my show and then ask me about, I don't know, Wendy's, and that would make me see that you really care.
Yeah, right. If you say to me, hey, how Star Wars is this, that shows me only one thing, and that is that you haven't heard the show.
Exactly. It shows me you're not a real fan.
Yeah. Speaking of podcasts and how easy it is to make them, I shared with you a couple of these stats that I saw, but I got really curious as to it's a long story as to how I got here, but I got to a point that I was like, I wonder if you could just Google how many people haven't heard of podcasts. That is such a bananas thing to me. That's like saying you haven't heard of McDonald's,
or just you haven't heard of it's a medium, right?
Right.
You haven't heard of Italian food?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I found a thing that was published fairly recently, and it seemed somewhat reputable. I mean, I'm quoting a thing that I read online and didn't really look too far into, so don't hold me to this. But it said that 70% of Americans have heard of podcasts. Now, I know that I'm 28 and I or however old we're supposed to be in the canon of this show, 61.
Yeah.
And that I live in a city, and whatever. But podcasts have been around since like iPods have been around, and it's just really bizarre to me that there are still 30% of people who have not heard of podcasts. And like to them, I would say, like, I posted something about it this week on Facebook or Twitter or something, just saying like, hey, if you're one of these 30%, now you have, there you go. There are podcasts. Like heard of is just like, have you heard the word? It is how I interpret it.
Yeah.
Then there was a different number that was how many people have listened to at least one podcast like ever, essentially. And that was 51% of Americans. So there's like a 19% deficit there of people who have heard of one but have not yet listened to one. But like I feel like that would be a greater divide.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh yeah, I've heard of those. I haven't really got into it. You know, like I would have expected it to say like, you know, if 70 was how many have heard of it, I would have expected it to be like, 30% have listened to one before.
Well,
but no.
And you know, it's crazy. No, another 51% of Americans, that also is, I believe, the ratio of women to men just in the world. So like it's a tipping point. That's about like, we're on the way, Mike. I think we're getting into podcast in a real good time with, I know the market is flooded, but like 51%, that ain't bad. That ain't bad.
Well, they're a business now because Conan.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just so bonkers to me that like,
Mike, can you share the other very disturbing stat from that like survey that made me really question everything for like a week?
Oh, I can't remember which one you're talking about.
So Mike sent this stuff to me, and so there was a graphic that was like, what do people do while listening to podcasts?
Oh,
and so it was
that was so wild.
It was terrifying, and so like it was your typical stuff,
so
right?
The thing, it led into it by saying like, and a lot of people find it's good for multitasking. Like you can listen to a podcast and do something else. And I was like, well, duh, of course.
Right, that's what we're all doing all the time. But the oh gosh, where is it? Okay, yeah. So like on the list,
like what was the number one activity that people did while, or give me maybe like 2, 3, and 4.
Sure. So number 2, doing housework or chores. 59.
So you're listening to a podcast while you're doing chores,
and 59% of people who listen to podcasts do that. 52% are driving while listening. 51% are relaxing before they're going to sleep. Like, and then way down at the bottom of the list is riding public transportation is 33%, which Charlie thought was weird. She's like, why isn't that higher? And I had a reminder that not everyone lives in a big city where there is public transportation. But so number 1 on the list, and it's number one with the bullet. It's 70%.
Yeah, 70% of people who listen to podcasts do this activity while listening to podcasts.
And listeners, and I quote, not doing anything else, just listening.
Not doing anything else, just listening.
Which, if
like
you're
sitting
not
on
doing...
the floor in the corner of like a gray room.
Yeah. Like, listeners, if you're just listening to this and not doing anything else, stop. Please stop.
We'd rather you not listen than just be sitting idly and listening to this. It blows my mind. It blows my mind.
It is disturbing. Like, it is disturbing to think about someone. It's like, I feel like I heard Paul F. Tompkins at some point talk about when he was on a flight, like, there was someone that sat next to him that just stared, like just sat there the entire flight, didn't listen to anything, didn't turn on TV, just like kind of sat there and just like looked ahead of them for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
And it'd be like doing that. Like, it's like, why would you go on a plane and not bring anything to entertain you? So also, why would you listen to a podcast and not multitask and do something else while you're doing it? Right. It is mind-boggling.
Yeah. It was truly upsetting. I remember kind of freaking out about it, and then I forgot about it, and then later that day I remembered it again. I just thought
I showed it to Charlie because I had to be like, you have to see this, and she also was very disturbed by it.
Yeah, it's very weird. Anyway, that's what's going on in podcasts right now. Hey, speaking of what's going on in podcasts, this is just a fun little bit of trivia. Today, I was looking at our Anchor.fm portal. Anchor.fm, it's a free way to make podcasts. You'll hear about it later. And it shows you like where all your listeners are, and like, you know, the majority, you know, like 96% or something like that of our listeners are in America, largely Illinois. And then like it shows by state then too. But we have... the metric is just in percent of listeners. So once it's under like 1%, it just shows up as less than 1%. So it could be that one person one time like click download accidentally on one of our episodes. But regardless, other than the US, which was like 95%, and the UK, which was like 2%, we have 18 other countries. We have 20 different countries of people listening to this.
Jeez.
Or have had listened to once or accidentally clicked on Spotify or something.
Now, here's my question. Are they all just using VPNs that are masking their true location?
Oh, I see. Probably. You know more about the internet than me. Shit.
Well, I'm going to choose to believe that they're all actually from those places, because that's nicer to think about.
Yeah, right.
So we're talking about, we literally haven't even mentioned the topic we're going to do
Yeah,
today,
no, okay. We
which
couldn't
is-
be done with all this preamble shit.
It's Scooby Doo on Zombie Island.
Scooby Doo on Zombie Island from 1998. Is that right?
I believe that's correct. So, Mike, we did Is It Star Wars in our bonus?
Bonus.
It was our most bone episode. And we said we were going to do Scooby Doo, which I believe we talked about. We said the live action one. But
Yeah, we talked about doing the live action one.
because we decided it is Star Wars. So
Because it's got
we are now
CG
doing,
animals in it, and yeah.
We are now doing a cartoon, I believe, direct to video movie of Scooby Doo, which I
Yes.
think is probably a better movie than the live action
It
one.
has to be. I don't know if I ever actually saw the live action one, and I know that we judged it having never seen it in our, bonus episode.
Now I have seen it multiple times.
Okay.
Let me tell you, Mike, the live action Scooby Doo was a very important movie for me. Sexually, mostly.
I see.
It was a very much of a sexual awakening, mostly
Oddies.
because
That dog.
we're talking Sarah Michelle Gellar. We're talking what's her face, who plays Velma,
Yeah.
who was in Freaks and Geeks.
Oh,
I can't remember.
her. Yeah.
I gotta look it up.
Yeah,
I can't
'cause
not. Linda
the-
Cardellini. We're talking Linda Cardellini.
That's right. Yeah.
And they're hot.
They are, yes.
That's kinda the end of
everyone in
that
that movie
story.
is very like pretty.
You know who else is in that freaking movie?
Matthew Lillard and Freddie Prinze
Matthew
Jr.
Lillard. Freddie Prinze Jr. Scooby Doo is in that movie.
Yeah, Scooby Doo as himself.
Yeah, Scooby Doo. It's actually Scooby Doo playing himself.
Right.
Hold on, wait. I gotta see. I can't remember her name right now, and she got pretty famous. Isla Fisher. Isla Fisher's in that movie.
Oh, funny.
Yeah, I believe when she was like just starting out. She plays Shaggy's sort of love interest, who's named Mary Jane, because it's funny.
Because Shaggy is sort of coded as like a stoner guy.
Yeah, it's like they're always eating, you know.
Yeah, they love making a big sandwich and then impossibly squeezing it down into like hand size.
Dude, I love that shit. Okay, talking about Scooby Doo on Zombie Island. This movie rules.
Had you seen it as a kid, like around 1998?
Yes, I saw it as a kid. I remember renting it from the store, from the video store, with my sister, and I think I don't know if my little brother was. He was probably really little, but we were free. We were like, "What the heck?" This one was actually scary because, like, normally Scooby-Doo movies are like, you know, there's not actually a monster; it's all fake. And this one was like, no, magic is real and monsters are real. And like there's a cat goddess and all this crazy stuff, and we were like, that was actually scary. We did not, and I remember being like a little traumatized by it because I hated scary stuff so much, and I was like, I did not like that movie.
And it actually has like a kind of fun sort of whodunit story to it. You know, the Scooby-Doo TV show from the 60s that would air reruns on Boomerang or whatever other channel that I saw throughout, you know, growing up. It was never like a super hard guess as to who the bad guy was. Not that like this one was like a complete whoa, but like there were some subversions that were cool. Like the zombies are good guys, and I love how quickly this movie goes. This movie is at like breakneck speed. It's like what, 60 minutes long?
It's like, I think it's like 1 minute or 1 hour, and then like 8 minutes, and then like the last credit. It's so fast, and it's also just
minutes.
like
I'm on the Wikipedia right now.
Yeah, they waste no time, and they also like they go so quickly from being like because Daphne's like, oh, we got to find some real ghosts. So okay.
Yeah, it's very interesting
for
where
our
it begins. That it's like the gang has separated. They're growing up. They're like doing jobs.
Well,
Shaggy and Scooby are working for the TSA, like drug sniffing, but they're sniffing for like food, like cheese, essentially.
pre TSA.
Right. That's right.
So
that's a good
this
point.
movie is weirdly, this was before 9/11, man.
Pre 9/11 TSA. That would have been a really weird kind of dark turn if this were like a 2002 movie.
Right. So this movie has a lot in common with the live action version, and it made me wonder when they made the live action one how much they pulled on like these newer movies, because in the live action one. It's in this one in Scooby Doo on Zombie Island, they all get together willingly because Daphne has started a TV show and she's going to be doing like a tour of all these haunted places
Travel
in the
Channel
United
now
States.
that they're like Haunted America or whatever.
Yeah, so she's doing that, and Fred surprises her, gets the whole gang back together to basically go.
And Fred's
do
like
this.
her producer, like they're still together,
Right? And they're not dating, but they probably are.
But they're like sort of coded that way.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And in the live action movie, Mystery Inc. is like disbands. I think they're like they're not forced to disband, but there's like a lot of interpersonal conflict going on, and then they all go off and like kind of do their own things, and then they're all invited to this island, also an island where there's this like big party festival thing happening, and then they're sort of forced to work together again, and they're not to spoil anything for all you big live action Scooby-Doo fans who haven't seen it, but it's the same
big
thing.
Live action Scooby-Doo fans who haven't seen it.
It's the same thing. It's kind of the same thing as it's like the host who takes them there ends up being the bad guy. The monsters are real. There's also a ritual where they're having to like sacrifice stuff, and like it's very similar beat wise to this movie.
And it came after it, didn't it?
It did. It came after.
Yeah, you're right. I wonder if they use this as kind of like a litmus test of, or not even that, but of like a, hey, that worked.
Right.
In the way that like Marvel movies adapt Marvel comics, that worked.
Totally. Well, and that's what I love about this movie, and what cracked me up is because they go like Daphne's like, I want some real ghosts, and it's just so amazing how quickly this movie's mythology goes from like, don't worry, it's all fake, to like, there are zombies. They are real. This is real monsters. Like it happens,
but they
so
do
fast.
sort of earn it. Like
they
sort
do.
of montage of them going to New Orleans, and they find like 3 or 4 that still prove to be very Scooby-Doo style, like guy in mask villains.
And can I say, in a great montage that has another real bop, like these songs.
Oh, 'cause it's terror.
It's so
time again.
It's so fun. These songs are so fun.
When that song began, I don't remember when exactly I saw this as a kid, but I want to say it was at a friend's house at like a sleepover birthday party kind of thing. And I remember just like it immediately cementing, like at least certain parts of it, like immediately cementing into my brain. And that song, when it started playing, I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. And can I tell you who sings the title track Scooby-Doo Where Are You in this movie?
Yes, please do.
It's Third Eye Blind.
That is of course it is.
I think for
1998?
this, for this like run of movies that they did, like the direct-to-video ones that were all in the same vein, Third Eye Blind did the theme song for this freaking.
That's so funny.
It's so good.
Because I do have a memory of. In fact, I'm thinking of when I just said it was like a sleepover birthday party. I think actually what I watched at that one that's in my head was Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School or something like that. I might be getting the title wrong, but there was this Ghoul School, and I vividly remember loving it, and that is the last of the memory that I liked it.
I loved it. So yeah, so right out the gate, we have mentioned the reason we did Scooby-Doo is because we talked about in a lot of early episodes like the sneaking around aspect of Star Wars, where
that's right.
where it is the cartoonish sneaking like in Star Wars, and that they do in Scooby-Doo all the time. And so this movie has that, obviously, and it has some real bops. And you've got a core group of heroes.
Yep.
And
kind of ragtag, and they have a like animal friend.
Yeah, which brings me to my my first point. Or my first note I think I took. Because I love this movie, and I don't want to like try to poke holes in the universe of Scooby-Doo, because it's not worthwhile. But my first note was this movie rules, and then my second note was this is the best movie we've ever done.
Yeah, it's really, really fun.
It's super. But then my third note was Scooby and Shaggy are a liability. They are straight up a liability. And I was like, but okay, this has been.
But looks can be deceiving, you know. The cat ladies underestimated them to the point that they didn't even bother making voodoo dolls.
Yeah,
of them.
but I want to know. Scooby and Shaggy have to have some kind of weird power because multiple times, even in the montage, and in the very beginning too, like. Fred is kind of like a de facto leader, sort of like
Cyclops.
Yeah, and he's like kind
like
of
the Boy
like,
Scout.
Doesn't actually have much of a personality, but he's just like, I'm Fred. And then Daphne is like damsel in distress a lot of the times. And the live action movie plays off this stuff a lot too. And like Velma's a smart one, and like we'll find all the clues. And then, but Scooby and Shaggy, they don't have a job. They don't like Fred gets to drive the car. They don't have a job. And in this movie, every time like they unmask someone, it's because like Scooby or Shaggy accidentally
like
hit
trips.
something and then knocked them over, or knocked something else over that then knocked them over. And that's also how they save them in this movie, because they didn't make they didn't make voodoo dolls of them, and they just accidentally roll in and hit the people. And I'm like, what weird luck god is like ruling Scooby and Shaggy's life? That they are always in the right place at the right time.
I think what you're doing right now is not criticizing Scooby and Shaggy as a liability, but more identifying a like top tier note in the show Bible for Scooby-Doo.
That's so true.
Like it's like Wile E. Coyote. Like he's always gonna make a crazy trap or like an invention from Acme Corporation to catch the Roadrunner, and it will always backfire against him in exactly the opposite way that he intended for it to be used.
You're right. There's got to be like number one
Scooby
thing.
and Shaggy will end up becoming integral to the saving of the day because they trip or they eat too much food.
Yeah,
or
it's like they're
like Jar Jar Binks.
Oh my God, you're right.
I just like peaked the level there.
It is this really fun slapstick sort of old time, older style cartoon stuff that I super love. Like every time someone called Scooby a dog and he went wrong, where? I was like, that's so good.
You know what's funny? I laughed at that a couple of times too, and they did it something like 4 or 5 times. Like there were, you know, whatever the final number was, it should have been 3, and I could have like at the moment of having actually watched it, I could have told you which ones to cut.
Oh yeah,
it should have been 3 times.
And yes, I agree. I still did laugh at it.
As a writer's note,
I did laugh at it every time, because every time I was like, damn, this dog, you know. It's just
it is. He is a really funny dog.
He's a great dog, man.
So that's actually a good point for it. There's the sort of like young rebellious teens with their animal friend. That's kind of Chewbacca-esque.
Yeah.
And then there's the people who save the day by accident. That kind of happens a lot. It's Jar Jar, but it's also young Annie, and it's also to some degree the Ewoks. Like they're not by accident, but they're sort of not probable as like day savers.
That's so true. You saying this just now is making me realize how often in Star Wars things end up being okay because of like accidents.
Like good luck. Yeah.
It's like it was not that things didn't go according to plan. It's just like it happened outside of the plan, and it was only thanks to those things happening that the day was able to be saved.
Yeah, right. And then what was the other one that I just had?
Did you look up the voice cast for this?
Well, I did.
Because I have a big one that is,
and we can talk about that one because I think I have the same one.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a big one that is obviously very Star Wars.
Correct.
Because Mark Hamill is the voice of Snakebite Scruggs in this.
Snakebite Scruggs.
Which it's a glorified cameo at best. And also, another writer's note, they introduced Snakebite and like the catfish, and then you think like the whole last confrontation, I was like, Snakebite's going to come help. It's going to come help him out. Does not show up.
And it was just like a complete little like red herring, but not even a payoff red herring. It was just sort of like, here's a grumpy guy and a catfish that has like magical power.
Yeah, I was like, why
it's
didn't
like enormous and like, squirts water.
I wish they could have come in the very end, because I was like, oh, Mark Hamill voices him. That's so cool. It's got to come back.
Yeah.
But no, I think they're just having some fun.
Right. Well, and he was just so hot as a VO guy at that very moment.
Well, so and this voice cast is stacked. So the voice of Shaggy is Billy West, who's the voice of like everybody in Futurama, and also
everybody in everything.
Yeah, he's everywhere. Adrian Barbeau.
I think he's Ren and Stimpy.
Yes, you're correct.
That is crazy.
Adrian Barbeau is Catwoman on the Batman animated series, and she plays Simone. The other antagonist woman, Lena, is Tara Strong, who's also literally everyone. Like she was.
Yeah, she's like Tommy Pickles, I think.
Yeah.
Is that
no,
right?
she's Dill, the baby,
That's
the baby
right. Dill
one.
Pickles, and
I think
Timmy
she
Turner,
might
right?
actually be Timmy Turner.
Yeah, you're right.
She-
Gray Delisle or Gray Griffin, I think, is Vicky and Tootie from Fairly Odd Parents. My mistake.
Yeah, how dare you? Jim Cummings is Gervais, or Jacques. Who he's like that voice actor who everyone knows his voice because he's been literally everyone for forever. Like he was Winnie the Pooh and Tigger, and like also literally everybody else. Like you hear his voice and you're like, oh, that's that guy that does voice over. Like you know him. He's like everyone's childhood voice. And then you got.
I'm sure a lot of this was very like deliberate / political because like Scooby Doo is just such cartoon royalty
right
from like 30 years prior, so I'm sure they're just like, just in the way of like when they did Space Jam, and I'm fairly certain Billy West was a lot of the voices in that too, that they were probably just like, okay, look, we're kind of reviving Scooby-Doo, we got to get the like best of the best in the industry.
Yes, but yeah, the voice acting is stacked. This is also from a time back in voiceover where like you didn't have to be. You could make a movie with just like voiceover actors and not because even in like the new Scooby-Doo ones, like Matthew Lillard is the voice of Shaggy from like the live action one, which he's actually been the voice of Shaggy in everything or in all movies I think since the live action one. And then we were mentioning earlier how Kate McCucci is in it. She's Velma, and like these are not necessarily A-list stars, but it's like this was from a time when you could just be a voiceover person. And like that, you're a voice
and those
actor.
people still exist, but there's like 11 of them.
Yeah. And it's people like...
And they do still do everything.
Right, it's people like Billy
like
West,
11 of them.
who's somehow literally in every show, and you're like, wait, what? What did you...
Yeah.
But the voiceover is great. I don't know if that makes it... Well, there is some good, like, classic voiceover things in Star Wars. I don't think of them that way, but they're kind of... I mean, Darth Vader, for one.
Sure. Well, and like Darth Maul was a physical actor, but a different voice actor. And all the officers in the original movie were like British actors, but then they replaced their voices with like American radio DJs.
So good. That's so funny. I love that.
Oh, I remembered my other thing.
I knew you would.
From earlier, that another pro point is it's just specifically related to Attack of the Clones, but that's okay because that's a Star Wars movie. It's just like a by the numbers whodunit story.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Which is Obi-Wan's whole track in that movie.
Yeah. So yeah, I think this is like it's animated and there's some really good Star Wars animation. Like this, it gets some points. I think we were right when we said that in general Scooby-Doo is Star Wars, and I think we are proving that today.
Yeah.
This might be the most we've actually talked about a topic in like 8 episodes.
Oh, I know. I had that thought like probably 10 minutes ago. I was like, man, we are like really analyzing this movie.
I think it's because we actually like liked this. This movie.
Yeah, we liked it, and it's quick. I think there's something to be said about a 77-minute movie, and I think more movies these days ought to go more toward that as opposed to the Avengers Endgame kind of thing. Now, when Star Wars Episode 9 comes out and they release the runtime, I'd go see it if it was 3 hours long, and by that I mean I'd go see it probably 2 or 3 times.
Right. Now,
but
I was talking the same thing with a friend the other day about how like that's why like Fleabag was so good, or one of the reasons why, because it's like 6-8 episodes and each one is 20 minutes long, and there's 2 seasons, and it's like they got in, they got out, and I'm like, every TV show should have a limit. Like there should be no more hour-long dramas. It's like you have 25 minutes. All right.
Yeah.
And I'm especially looking at like the streaming ones like Netflix where they're like, ooh, we can make a season of Arrested Development where some episodes are 38 minutes long. No,
right.
You can't.
No.
You're not allowed.
And I think they're learning that now a little bit more.
Yeah.
But like, because Arrested Development was one of their first, like, hey, we can kind of do whatever we want. Like the whatever that would be called, the not reboot but renewal of, or, and yeah, I agree with you. I think like nope, you don't get that. We're used to 22 minutes, you get 22 minutes. And I've never understood why like a very good comedy TV show has to be 22 minutes, and like fine drama TV show still gets to be twice that amount.
Yeah, like every CSI gets to be 45 minutes long. Why?
Exactly. Like, why is CSI an hour? I mean, it fills an hour of time. You need to do that, but like in terms of like CBS programming stuff. But
I am here. I am here
I
for.
I don't want any like competition show that it's just like. That episode is the full story, you know, like Chopped or whatever. That does not need to be an hour long.
There's okay, yeah. I'm instituting a new law in the land. Is
this new rules?
Yeah, I'm stealing from Comedy Bang Bang a lot today, I guess. Wait, that's a playoff of a Bill Maher thing,
which
right?
is stolen as new rules from Bill Maher.
Yeah, Bill Maher. Jeez, we're really in the weeds. But okay. I'm going to get into public office specifically so I can make a mandate that all television can only be, every TV show has to be 22 minutes long, and every movie can be no longer than Scooby Doo on Zombie Island. That's the new rule. You have to get it done.
77 minutes is a movie. Yeah.
And you cannot go longer. Like if you have to go longer, then you're bad at making movies. I'm sorry. That's just how it is. Do we want to?
I hear you. It's a fun premise. I would say maybe no longer than 90 minutes.
No, Mike. I'm sorry. I refuse.
77.
I'm taking a hard line stance here.
Yep. Hey, that's another pro Star Wars thing. Star Wars came out in 77.
Whoa, you're connecting all the dots here.
And yeah, of course, Snakebite Scruggs is Luke Skywalker.
Do we want to take a quick break now that we've done some pros, because it's about that time to jump into the pit?
Yes, I will say, as a couple other pros really quick, there are ghosts. There are like actual ghosts.
That's
true.
There
are ghosts in Star Wars in the same sense that there's also kind of like magic. Like in this, it's like voodoo magic, and in Star Wars, it's like, the Force. But they do it in a sort of ceremonial room chamber, a la the cave and the tree and the Jedi Council and all that.
You're definitely saying Star Wars things.
There's only 2 of them, like the Sith.
Oh yeah, there can only be 2. There can only be 2, or there's always 2, or whatever.
But then, of course, they like make another guy. Like at a point we needed a ferry driver,
which I love how unexplained that is. Like it's like, wait. You can
they
turn
waste
other people.
No time with like explanation or justification. They're just like, oh yeah, and then we turned into cats, and then we started draining people of their souls. Hold on, you turned into cats?
I know, when they turn into cats at first, I was like, wait, are they vampires? What is this creature? I was like, what is this? And then they're like, yes, we're the cat god. And I was like, what? Why did it have to be a cat god?
Yeah, it's really bananas. It's
very
good
bananas.
Though. Like it's good bananas in the way that like some of the prequels, while they're like crazy, are like still kind of fun.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, okay, so we should jump into the plot.
All right, let's jump into the pit. I'm excited for the game. It's going to be fun.
Games.
All right, here we go. Jump in. Whee! And we're back. Hey, papilla. Well, we're back from the Starlight Pit. The Starlight Pit is a little scarier to me now after last week's episode where I died because Mike was infected by an alien that made him say Sarlacc a bunch of times.
That's right.
That is part of the canon of the show now.
That's right. And also, it's called that because that's the money.
That's true. $ R la cent pit. So I've got a game today, Mike, that I'm pretty excited for.
Yay!
Now, Mike, this is a competition against me.
Okay.
So this game is called...
I was just in Vegas, and that's like blackjack, right? Because you're the dealer?
Yes, I'm the dealer, and the house always wins.
That's
so
right.
This one is called 6 Degrees of Scooby-Doo.
Okay.
Which is not really a good name. It's just the name of 2 things that people are familiar with that I've put together. So you're familiar with like...
But why would we have anything good? All we do on this show is throw 2 things together.
So you're familiar with like the 6 Degrees of Separation, 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, et cetera, et cetera. So Scooby-Doo has crossed over with and been has featured people, sometimes real people, sometimes fictional characters from all sorts of different universes.
Yes,
and
I'm
properties.
aware of a handful. Yes.
Right, it's like Scooby-Doo has met Batman and
the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah. And going back to like even earlier, he met the Three Stooges and Laurel and Hardy and like real people like the Harlem Globetrotters.
It's Laurel and Hardy.
And like Don Knotts, like, okay, there's a bunch of, he's met a bunch of celebrities that are real people that are then also put into cartoons, which raises a lot of questions about our own universe. I know, right? So in this game, what you're going to have to do. That's a good point,
right? We're part of the Scooby-Doo-averse.
Yeah, our real world is part of the Scooby-Doo universe.
Yeah.
So in this game, your job is, so what I've done is I've taken a handful of properties, sometimes people, sometimes shows or whatever, that have appeared with Scooby-Doo in Scooby-Doo episodes, and I have tried to see how few degrees of separation I could get between them and Star Wars.
Okay.
So your job is to try to beat me or tie me in the degrees of separation between these properties in Star Wars. Make sense?
Okay.
Some of these are going to be harder than others. Okay.
And now, okay, so if, say, the Harlem Globetrotters were also somehow linked to Star Wars, can I continue to use Harlem Globetrotters as a bridge?
No.
Okay.
Well, here's the thing. It's not, so like, Scooby-Doo is no longer part of the bridge.
Oh, I see.
So like Scooby-Doo, so first one is
just anything. This is like how Scooby-Doo has crossed over with all these other things. What if Star Wars?
Yes. So like I'm saying like, so for instance, the first one is Batman, right? Batman has appeared in Scooby-Doo multiple times. Scooby-Doo has appeared, crossed over with the Batman Brave and the Bold. And then Batman and Robin back in the day. So Scooby-Doo and Batman have been in the same episode. How few degrees of separation can you get from Batman to Star Wars?
Do like YouTube videos where they take two different fictional characters and see if they can fight and who would win count?
No,
because Batman and Darth Vader fought in one of those.
Right. They have to be like
legitimate
properties. Yeah. It can be like they could have shared screen time. It can be companies that own multiple things, which is like a hint because Disney owns Star Wars, so that might help along the way. So just like how it can be multiple different things, but it has to be like a legitimate either appearance or like a legitimate claim of ownership by whatever the property is. So I'll tell you. I got it in 3.
Okay.
And don't worry, I'll cut out a lot of the dead air if we need to.
Yeah. Okay. I'm thinking out loud here, and then this can kind of be my test run in terms of you being like, no, you didn't get this game. But so, like, Batman animated series would have been shown on, like, WB.
Sure.
And something tells me at the same time they were also showing SpiderMan, which now is owned by Disney, and Disney owns Star Wars. I feel like a lot of these are going to end with, and Disney owns Star Wars.
That was in the right vein. I don't believe...
I don't know if I'm factually correct.
I don't believe the Spider-Man animated series was appearing on the WB at that time.
Yeah, probably not.
I don't think it was on the WB. I believe it was on Fox or something like that, but I'd have to double check.
Right.
But I think also, actually, now that I think of it, I think it's staring us right in the face right now, because I think the one I did was a little more esoteric than even this. So... Mark Hamill is in Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. He's the voice of the Joker. Wait, we're not comparing to Scooby-Doo.
Batman and
we're not
Luke,
comparing to Scooby-Doo. We're not comparing
Joker
to Scooby-Doo.
and Luke Skywalker. Right.
I forgot that it was Scooby-Doo. Damn it. But yes, to Luke Skywalker. Wait, shit. I'm confusing myself.
Are we linking it to Star Wars or to Scooby-Doo?
We're linking it to Star Wars. You were right. Okay. That's what I was going to say, because Mark Hamill was in this.
That's smarter. I'm dumb, and that's correct.
No, that's it. So that's what, 2? So
yeah, or like 1, like
so Mark
I don't
Hamill
know how you do this, because I don't know. So okay, I was an extra in a movie once when I was in college. It's called Ides of March, and it has George Clooney and Ryan Gosling and more in it. And
yes.
I don't know how to do my bacon number, because technically speaking, I'm in a movie with Ryan Gosling, and Ryan Gosling is in Crazy Stupid Love with Kevin Bacon. So I
think that's
1?
2. No, that's 2. So I think so. Here's
so what's
the way
Kevin
I did it
Bacon?
In this
Is
game.
Kevin Bacon 1?
No, so it's the relationships, right? So Mark Hamill was
Kevin Bacon's a 0.
So yeah, Mark Hamill is in Batman the Animated Series, and Mark Hamill is in Star Wars. So those are 2 connections. So it takes like 2 jumps to get from Batman to Star Wars, right? So the same thing with you. Mike Gospel was in this movie with George Clooney. George Clooney was in this movie with Kevin Bacon, so that's 2.
Right. Okay.
So it's the connections that we're counting.
Yeah,
So
got it.
that one was actually better than the one that I thought of earlier.
And it wasn't George Clooney who was in Crazy Stupid Love. It's Ryan Gosling. And then also Marissa Tomei is in Ides of March. So it's a twofer.
Well, geez. I mean,
Both
if you want to
connected to
do a
Crazy Stupid Love.
podcast about Crazy Stupid Love, we can do a podcast about Crazy Stupid
Hold
Love.
on. Okay. I'm listening.
Okay, next. We
Okay,
gotta
okay.
get through these. There's more.
Yeah.
Okay. There was an episode where Scooby-Doo met
Jesus.
the stars. Well, not the stars. They met the boys from Supernatural. So apparently the Supernatural show exists in the Scooby-Doo universe.
What is that?
The show Supernatural, like on the CW, the long-running
Yeah.
show with the Winchester brothers. It's like about where it's like a Monster of the Week kind of thing.
Okay.
Do you know about Supernatural at all?
I've heard the name.
All right, we're going to skip that one then, because if you don't know about it, then you're not going to get this one, which I had to look
okay.
it up too. So, yeah.
I'm going to guess, though, that Supernatural features Molly Quinn, who is in Castle with Nathan Fillion. And Nathan Fillion is in Firefly, which is kind of Star Wars-y. And
That's pretty close to what I put, which was
I don't know
Sterling.
if Molly Quinn is in Supernatural.
What I put was Sterling K. Brown was a recurring role in Supernatural, and he was in Black Panther, which is owned by Disney, which owns Star Wars.
Which is owned by Disney.
So another quick thing I want to mention is that there's multiple movies where Scooby-Doo crosses over with the WWE.
Oh, God.
Which is wild. Like John Cena is in it, and also the actual Vince McMahon, who's the worst person. And so I was like, well, WWE has to be owned by someone, right? Maybe it's connected to Disney in some way. The WWE is not owned by anything else. Like they're their own network, and they have a board in which Vince McMahon like has almost a majority share. And I'm like, they're just their own rogues in this world of like mega corporations and like super monopolies.
Yeah.
The WWE is a rogue agent that are not owned by anybody. I just wanted to share that.
That is nuts.
Okay.
Okay, I can do the WWE.
Oh yeah, hit me.
Within the WWE, at some point, was Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hesitating now as to which movie I pull because he's inevitably in a Disney movie. He's in Escape to Witch Mountain or Return
he's the voice
to Witch
of,
Mountain by
he's
Disney.
also in Moana. He's also in Moana.
Oh, of course, and Disney on Star Wars. I was also gonna say he's in Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle with Karen Gillan, who plays
Yes.
Nebula in the Avengers, which is owned by Disney, and Disney owns Star Wars. And at some point, Marvel and Star Wars will cross over on film. It's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen. It has to happen. So far you have not beaten me because I have been wrong about a few and we've come to them together. So the score is 0 right now. All right. So there was a Lego Scooby-Doo movie.
Oh, that's fun.
So Lego to Star Wars, take me there.
Okay.
This one's kind of a gimme.
Okay, so there was Scooby-Doo Lego movie, and then there's Lego Star Wars sets.
Yeah. Yep.
Like
that's
and video
it.
games.
Yep. That's it. It's one. It's one.
There's also like Star Wars Lego like movies. There's like the Yoda Chronicles, and there's a droid Tales.
Yep. This one's a little trickier.
Okay.
Score is still 0-0 right now. Back in the day, the Scooby-Doo crossed over with the Addams Family. So take me, Addams Family to Star Wars. Take me there.
Is the new Addams Family that's coming out this year owned by Disney?
I don't know. I'll look it
Because
up.
Disney owns Star Wars.
But there is something else in the new Addams Family that would help you.
That doesn't mean anything to me because I don't know what's going on with that movie, but I have something.
Okay.
The Addams Family had its like Pepsi counterpart, the Munsters. The Munsters was shot on what they then later used the set at Universal to shoot Desperate Housewives on ABC, which is owned by Disney, and Disney owns Star Wars.
Okay, that was 5 degrees. I got
not
there
good.
a little quicker. So in the new Addams Family movie, Oscar Isaac is the voice of Gomez, and he plays Poe in Star
And Oscar
Wars.
Isaac owns Star Wars.
He does, yes. So I got there in 2. So you still have not beaten me. I'm very sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, Sherlock
I am very smart.
Holmes. No, it's because like this is like this what's fun about these games is because I got to research this and now I'm springing it on you to be like, can you do it?
Yeah.
Sherlock Holmes.
Okay.
Scooby-Doo met Sherlock Holmes.
Okay, so
Sherlock Holmes to Star Wars.
the two most famous actors to portray Sherlock Holmes of late are Robert Downey Jr. and Benedict Cumberbatch, both of whom are Marvel heroes and Disney owns Star Wars.
Okay, that's pretty good, but
did you do it quicker?
Take me back further for famous actors who have played Sherlock Holmes.
Oh gosh, I'm not sure I could pull another.
Think about in the originals, who of those sharp-faced British men might have played Sherlock Holmes at some point?
Sharp-faced British men of old.
You know, Grand Moff Tarkin. You know him?
Oh, did he play Holmes?
Yeah, Peter Cushing was apparently one of the big people who played Holmes a lot.
Oh, that's cool.
Back in the day.
Of course, I should have guessed like Obi-Wan or Alec Guinness.
That's what I was. Yeah, I was like looking up the older British actors because I was like, I'm sure one of them played Sherlock Holmes. Yeah, Peter Cushing was a pretty popular Holmes back in the day.
That's
so that's
cool.
Two degrees right there. All right. So this is a wild thing. Weird Al has met Scooby-Doo twice because there is a new series.
I've got it already.
Yeah, there's a new series that's called like Guess Who with Scooby-Doo or whatever. That's sort of in the vein of the old Scooby-Doos where they met a bunch of like famous people from like entertainment. But the original Batman crossover, I think, was the original one. They team up with Batman and Robin, Scooby-Doo and the gang team up with Batman and Robin to rescue Weird Al. I don't know why Weird Al was there in that one.
That's weird.
But Weird Al was kidnapped by the Joker and the Penguin, and so they had to save him. And then in this new series that actually just came out this year, Weird Al is just like there, and there's a Weird Allosaurus that they have to go figure out what's going on with.
So strange.
So Weird Al has like crossed over Scooby-Doo twice, which is amazing. But anyways, Weird Al to Star Wars.
Weird Al's cover or parody of American Pie was about Star Wars.
Boom, easy. Too easy. All right. Ricky Gervais is also in the new series in which he gets to meet Scooby-Doo. Yeah, as himself.
That's so stupid.
That's the weird thing about all these is they're celebrities playing cartoon versions of themselves.
Yeah. God, does Disney own Night at the Museum?
So think about Ricky Gervais and his frequent collaborators and one of his
Stephen Merchant,
one of his series he did. Actually, we recently talked about this actor.
Yes, Extras.
Mm-hmm.
And oh god, he surely did that with some Star Wars person.
Wait. Let me see.
Did you ever watch Extras? It's a good show.
Yes. No. So not Extras. A different one that he did with an actor that I talked about at length in another game semi-recently on this show.
Oh, God.
Who played an Ewok.
Oh, right. Yeah, what was that called? An Idiot Abroad?
So the one with Ricky Gervais
and Warwick
Davis is...
Good. You're smart, and I'm bad.
It's called Life's Too Short, and it was a mockumentary about Warwick Davis as a little person actor. So yeah, that's two right there. Ricky Gervais, Warwick Davis. I only got a few more here. The last one's really hard, but this one you might get quickish. Kenan Thompson is also in this new series.
Again, as himself.
As himself, yeah.
That's
so Kenan
funny.
Thompson to Star Wars.
Kenan Thompson was in Good Burger. Nope. I couldn't tell you who else is in that other than Kel. Kenan Thompson. Kenan Thompson's on SNL, and like a million different Star Wars people have been on SNL.
That's true. That's very true. I'll allow that. The one I was thinking of specifically was he was with Bill Hader for a long time, who was kind of the voice of BB-8 in Force Awakens.
That's right. Bill Hader and Ben Schwartz were the voice of BB-8.
Yeah, quote unquote, were the voice of BB-8. Okay, this last one is maybe the most weird, the hardest.
Okay.
Sia, the singer, S-I-A, Sia, also plays herself in this new series. You got it?
Wait, no, I'm connecting her to Scooby-Doo. I'm supposed to connect her to Star Wars. I was going to say,
Star Wars.
Sia wants to swing from the chandelier, and they trap a bunch of bad guys with chandeliers.
Yeah, I mean, I would have allowed that if it was to Scooby-Doo, but it's to Star Wars.
Okay. Sia is on I've got it. Sia is on the Hamilton mixtape with Lin-Manuel, who does the song of Maz Kanata's Cantina.
Mike, I am so happy you got that, because that's literally exactly what I wrote down.
Yes. Yeah, I can't even remember what she sang. She just like does a cover of one of the songs, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does Satisfied.
Oh, that's right, of course.
I believe. But yeah, that's exactly what I wrote. So anyways,
lame.
that was 6 degrees of Scooby-Doo.
Yay.
which is, it wasn't exactly These Are Riddles, but it was.
I mean, it absolutely is following in the vein of all of our recent These Are Riddles.
Right, where it's like, I thought of something and I'm going to try to get you to guess the exact way that I got there.
That I thought of it. Yeah, right. That was a great one. I'm so happy that I pulled the same thing.
There was a couple that I was like, I wonder if he's going to get that. Like, I thought you might pull the Peter Cushing as Sherlock Holmes out of your ass.
Yeah.
And I knew you'd be like, Weird Al. Yeah, duh.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh man, if he gets the Sia one, I'm going to be very excited. But yeah, it was me. That game was a lot of me Googling people's names in Star Wars to see if there was any legitimate connection. And then be like, okay, there's not. How can I manufacture one?
And it's owned by Disney, and Disney owns Star Wars.
And Disney owns Star Wars. So we did a lot of pros earlier.
I mean, like, cons are kind of self-evident. When it's something that isn't very Star Wars-y, the pros are fun reaches, and the cons are a little obvious. Like, I mean, it takes place on Earth. It's a cartoon.
Right.
Third Eye Blind is in it.
I want to talk about the live action Scooby Doo some more because I just really can't stress how hot everyone in that movie is.
Yeah.
And how.
And then don't they do like a body switch thing at some point?
Yeah, they do a body switch thing. Like Sarah Michelle Gellar like looks at her own boobs.
Weirdly horny.
Yeah, it was very horny, and like it was for me as a however old I was, like 12, like 10 or 12-year-old. I was like, dang, I wish I knew what to do with this boner, and I didn't know what to do with it. It was just like really horny movie. There's a whole like cut scene where Velma sings "You're Just Too Good to Be True," but like they play off the tropes in or they play off the stuff where it's like Scooby and Shaggy are potheads, and like Velma is a lesbian, and and Daphne and Fred are like in a relationship, or whatever. And so like they do this whole thing where they show a shot of Daphne walking into a room and Fred walking into a room, and then Velma like looks, but you don't know who she's looking at, and then she starts singing "You're Too Good to Be True, Can't Take My Eyes Off of You," and it's a deleted scene, but you better believe I had that on DVD, and we didn't have anything to do, so we watched the deleted scenes on things all the time.
I was just talking to Michael Delaney, former and more than likely future guest of How Star Wars Is It, about that with like streaming nowadays. You don't get all those like DVD commentary and like extra features. Like, how would I have known how Gollum was made?
Well, and
without having like a sleepover party and exhausting all the movies and then being like, well, we could watch bonus features. Yeah,
like we literally would play the games on the Shrek DVD like it was an actual video game, because
right.
My family didn't have video games like when I growing up, and so we would do it like on the Grinch one that had games, and so we would just like sit there and like play these games is such a generous term for like what these things were, which were basically playing cutscenes from the movie every time you'd push like enter or whatever.
Yeah, right.
But we would, and I was like, you don't get that anymore. Where's my very reaching games based on Avengers Infinity War? I want to have a Thanos snap game where I get to push enter and then it'll make half of the people disappear or something.
And they're just like still images of people.
Yeah, it's just that's all it is. I miss that.
With like a dissolve effect from like Windows Movie Maker.
This is like, man, I remember, so like going back to checking this out from the video store when we rented it, I remember like after we watched it and it was scary, I would like see the cover and be like, too scary, man, too scary. And it would like still scare me. Just going with the theme of that I was very afraid as a child that we keep talking about this month.
Yeah.
It was just real spooky, man.
Yeah,
also,
this movie is like, it goes out of its way to like be scary, like spooky. Haunted.
There was another note I made where there was a point in this movie where it could have like pendulum swung in the exact opposite direction whenever that zombie falls out and Daphne's like trying to pull the mask off.
And then she just pulls its head off.
Right, it's all cartoony, and then Fred grabs it and pulls its head off. And I was like, there's a different movie in which he tries to pull the mask off and like accidentally like rips the flesh off of it.
Yeah, like just
it's
the
rotting,
face.
like it's a Walking Dead zombie or whatever, and like its head falls off and it's all. I'm like, and that would be a very different movie. But I kind of want to see that movie too, where the Scooby Gang all of a sudden is in a very real, very scary, gory zombie apocalypse.
Well, I wonder what this Return to Zombie Island movie is about, because like Zombie Island kind of resolves, and so it might just be that they completely do a new one, but it does say return to, as though it's part of a continuity.
Right.
And maybe we should watch it and report back at some point.
I like that. I like setting ourselves up for future eps.
Like next October, the third week, we'll do Return to Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island or whatever.
I like that. That gives us a lot of time to prep. Wait.
But okay, so cons,
okay, wait,
I don't even
film...
like have cons. They're obvious, you know? Like,
all right, hold on. This is Return to Zombie Island is a direct sequel to Scooby Doo on Zombie Island.
Okay,
which
but it came out like 20 years later.
Yeah, it came out 20 years later. 21 years later. It is the film also serves as the second sequel to a film in the series after Scooby Doo and WWE Curse of the Speed Demon, which is the sequel to Scooby-Doo WrestleMania Mystery. So apparently Scooby-Doo Return to Zombie Island is sort of a continuation of a saga that started with the WrestleMania ministry? Wow, I wish there was a ministry of WrestleMania.
Well, does it mean it's the second instance of a Scooby-Doo movie sequel? Like, the Wrestle one was the sequel to the WrestleMania Mysteries.
You're right.
And
This wording is terrible. I wish it was saying that this is the second sequel after Scooby-Doo and WWE Curse the Speed Demon, because that would be much better.
That's like a stat you hear during like World Series when someone will say, you know, like, this is the fifth ever second baseman to hit 30 home runs over the right field fence in pre and post season, you know, like this weirdly specific stat, but then it's the fifth person to do it. Like, okay, if you're gonna get super specific, it's like a world record for how many, you know, straws you can put in your butthole or whatever. Like, has anyone actually done that before? Like, you don't have the most, you just like chose to do it, and therefore you have done the most.
So I'm trying to find a synopsis of the Return to Zombie Island. It seems that they are on a different island, but there are still zombies, but it's like the same zombies from the last island, so I will be interested to see why that is.
Oh, like the Confederate soldiers? Remember that part?
Yeah, that was a little weird, like that like so they're like, strange. Oh, the zombies are good guys, and here's some Confederate soldiers that are helping out.
Phew, thank God the Confederate soldier dead people saved us.
Why did they pick the Confederate soldier to be the ghost of the zombie that came out at the very end to be like, thank you, like pick any of the other ones.
Yeah, that was a very strange choice to me. I get that, like, it wouldn't be Union soldiers in like the Bayou necessarily, but
it could be.
You could have you also could have just like skipped the whole dead Civil War guys element altogether.
Right, and it absolutely. I mean, like, people died on both sides in the Civil War. Like, it absolutely could have been.
Well,
like,
that's
the Union.
true.
Like, it could have been anybody. It could have been that weird pregnant one that was very disturbing that kept coming up.
Right, because the people were three categories: pirates and people from, you know, like the 18th century, and then Confederate Civil War soldiers, and then like recent like fat guys in Hawaiian shirts who were like very obviously tourists.
Yeah.
Like, what about like the 1920s?
yeah. She was like, we had to lure people here all the time for every harvest moon. It's like, well, it looks like you did it 3 times, and there was
like,
3
how often is there a harvest moon? Like, fairly frequently, right? Like once a year.
I would think so. I think it's once a year.
Like at the harvest time.
Yeah, I think so.
So, like, why didn't we see any, like, hippies or, like...
Yeah. They did it in the 1800s during the Civil War. They did it in, like, the 1600s or whatever with pirates.
And then
they
in,
did
like,
it
1994.
in the 1980s. Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, like, so as we were saying, the cons are all kind of evident. But I think it's more Star Wars than it's not.
The dead people thing that we just said is, like... it follows its own rules to a certain point, and then when you like hold a magnifying glass to it for a second, you're like, oh well, wait, what? And that's kind of a Star Wars thing.
That's true. Like,
like,
this movie.
Why are there Jedi on a council? And like, you know,
this movie follows
like
its own logic, but then also the logic doesn't make sense. You know?
Right. Oh, and also that gardener was a cop.
A gardener was a cop.
We just never
the whole
really
time.
covered that. That was kind of fun. This movie is like very insistent on its like twists. Like nobody is who they seem.
Yeah. My favorite thing
everybody kind of is.
My favorite thing about that like twist about the gardener being a cop is that like earlier in the movie. I even wrote a note about it. His muttering was so funny. Like anytime they'd like ask him something or like be like, well, why'd you do this thing? It was kind of shady. And he's like,
yeah, he was acting very shady, not just like suspicious, but like an evil guy.
Right. And I'm like, dude, if you're a cop, why are you're putting on this whole show for
he's like
no
being
reason.
like an actor.
Yeah, I'm like, you could have been like a normal gardener, and instead he's like, like literally muttering under his breath that we can hear, and it's like nonsense.
Only
like,
for us, the audience's benefit to think he's a bad guy.
Yeah, I'm like, why are you doing that? That had nothing to do with you being undercover. Nothing.
Yeah. Like, you thought I was a bad guy, but that's only because I was pretending to be a bad guy.
It's because I was acting like one.
Well, I'm not an asshole then for thinking that.
Yeah, you were being weird, dude. Like, you were digging a square hole in the ground and not telling anybody why.
Yeah, for gardening.
Yeah, that's pretty shady, my man.
Gosh, okay, we talked about the movie at least, and we did compare it to Star Wars. We didn't really say how it wasn't Star Wars, but what we do at the end of the show for new listeners is, regardless of what we said during the episode, we just sort of arbitrarily assign it a score.
Yeah, it's more of a feeling than an exact science.
Yeah. And I think I have mine. I think I know what it's going to be.
Okay, I think I'm going to do my unit of measure. I think is going to be those hot peppers.
Oh, yeah.
That was also a good bit. Like, I love Scooby and Shaggy eating things all the time. Yeah. Very funny. And the hot peppers bits were very good. This is like, okay, objectively speaking, this movie is not very good. And
sure.
In the way that, like, the animation is fine for the time, but the animation's not that stellar.
And like the story wouldn't get like best screenplay.
Right. But like somehow I love it.
Yeah, it is very like captivating, and it does not slow down. Like there was never a part that I was like, boy, let's move this along.
Yeah, and like also somehow this movie has like 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. And 96% of Google users liked this movie. Like, this is a universally loved, acclaimed movie.
Yeah.
And me too, even though I can look at it and be like, well, there's better animated movies than this.
Right.
Like, there's probably even better animated Scooby Doo movies than this. But I'm just like, but somehow, it's this weird, maybe it's a nostalgia thing. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's key to Star Wars. And, like, the prequels aren't good movies, and I still look on them very fondly, and I feel like a lot of people do. Whether or not they like, Episode 2, you still sort of, like, look at it and think about it, and you're like, yeah, but, like, without Episode 2, we wouldn't have, like, the Camino guys and, like, the fucking 50s diner.
Yes.
Like, it's fun.
It is. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the hot peppers.
Okay, I'm going to do, I was debating between confiscated TSA cheese or people tied up by voodoo strings / victims in the final scene.
Yeah, those are both very good.
And the reason because of that is my answer is 6, which is the 4 Scooby guys, Scooby, and then the cop / gardener.
Yeah, I was going to say 6 as well. I'm going to get 6 hot peppers.
Yeah, man.
The other funny thing about having them being like customs thing was I thought they were going to be doing, and I think it might even be a play on like he's a drug dog, right? They're looking for those drugs, and I was like,
because they don't actually employ dogs to try to find like camembert cheese.
Yeah, probably not. That's probably pretty easy to find if you just I think a human nose could probably smell that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna give it 6 chili peppers because I think it's more Star Wars than it isn't. But it's not really science fiction-y very much.
No, right. But
which,
it
honestly,
definitely like it like triggers the same chemicals in my brain that Star Wars does, and that's kind of where the like you've pointed out before that you like to say, okay, well, a 5 is neither Star Wars nor not Star Wars, so is it closer to Star Wars or to not Star Wars? And I think this is like one ratchet up. Yeah.
I agree. 1 ratchet up. And so we're going to a year from now, we're going to do Scooby-Doo Returns to Zombie Island. And that is a promise.
Or we will have quit the podcast for months by that point.
Either of those things are possible.
Yeah.
No, this is an eternal podcast. We have to do everything.
Right. We're going to cover everything.
Well, so if you want us on the internet, you can find us at How Star Wars Is on Twitter and Instagram. Shit's popping off.
I haven't been good about Instagram lately, but I'll try to make more stuff. As soon as I'm done with this art project that I keep saying I'm going to be done with, I will post it on both mine and the How Star Wars Is It Instagram. I'm staring at them right now because they're on the table.
I'm very excited
and
about
they're
them.
really cute.
They are very cute. I love them. Yeah, and Mike is at Mike Gospel on Twitter. I'm at Josiah, the Josiah Man. Mike is in a billion singing improv shows.
Yeah, Anarchy's run will be over, or there's one more show. So if you're hearing this right now, today, Monday, or Tuesday, or Wednesday, Thursday night, we have an Anarchy show at the Annoyance, and I'm in a handful of Baby Wants Candy shows coming up soon. Or you can also see me do improv for children in the morning at Storytown Improv on Saturday mornings every so often.
I hope
and that's a really fun show. You can bring your family.
Yeah, everyone show up to that one. I want everyone to be there to see Mike be a silly goose with the kids.
Yeah.
I'm in a show in Minnesota. Don't come see it because it's in the middle. You don't know where it is, and I'm not going to tell anybody. All right. But if you are listening to this because you saw on the program to that show that I do a podcast called How Star Wars Is It, welcome.
I did that too in the Matrix musical. I plugged the podcast.
The director of this show, when he was like, when we were talking in the emailing back and forth originally, like,
what's your bio?
He like in the last thing he said, he was like talking about one of the songs that he wanted me to work or like told me to look at, and then like he was like, P.S. I shudder to think what the answer to be of How Star Wars As It would be for this musical we're doing. And I was like, no. How did you find that? What did you? I don't know if he like went to my Twitter or something like when he was looking me up, but I was like, damn it.
And hey, guy, in the time it took you to message me that, you could have left me a 5-star review on iTunes. And listeners, you should do that too.
Yeah, you should.
And tell your friends who you think would like the show.
Yeah, we've been growing little by little, and people seem to enjoy it, so keep it up. I think it's about time for Tubby Bye Bye.
This is definitely time for Tubby Bye Bye.
Yeah. Jeez, I'm crow. All right.
This is definitely my favorite movie ever, and it's the best movie, and it should be number one on AFI's top 100 movies.
And no movies can be longer than it. It's the perfect length. Okay.
It is the only length of movie.
Well, like we always say, we love you,
and
may
the 4th be with you.